even just having source equals Facebook, just doing that is going to give you a big data point, because people in their advertising, all of a sudden results aren't reporting correctly, or it seems like Facebook's off. And they're like, if you don't have that data in Google Analytics, it's a very important data point that you'll be missing. When you're creating your ad, URL parameters, source equals Facebook, just that is going to make a big difference. Things are changing so rapidly. And, with all the customers, I tell them, don't just only invest in Facebook, start diversifying. And I'm starting to realize for my business that makes sense. And for certain people, Facebook ads don't make as much sense. So primarily Facebook ads focused on mainly driving sales, getting good return on ad spend, and actually building the business long term. That's kind of the main focus.
This episode was a real treat for people who are running Facebook ads. My guest today, Jacob Landis, is an agency owner working with a variety of e-commerce companies, helping them to increase profitability and scale their companies with Facebook ads. In this conversation, we covered a lot of tactical advice about how to scale your Facebook ads. Jacob shared secret options for retargeting people who have opted out of tracking. He also talked about how he creates UTMs and how he uses naming conventions in order to organize and track correctly his campaign's performance. We talked about how to use Facebook automated rules and why both of us are not using them anymore, but we highly suggest that you know the functionality. Jacob also mentioned how he optimizes his ads using different bid types. And at the end of the episode, we talked about mindset tips and how to set realistic expectations from your Facebook ads campaign. I'm sure you'll enjoy this episode. It's a bit advanced, but we talked about a lot of subjects that I think that are very crucial, even if you're just starting out with your Facebook ads campaigns.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hi, Jacob. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. What's the time over there?
It is 11 p.m. I'm a bit of a night owl.
That's cool. Do you normally book the podcast this late, or it's just because I'm in Europe and this was like the only slot left in the schedule?
Well, usually during normal business hours, I'm pretty booked. And I think it was just kind of early mornings that were open. So I tend to be pretty alert at night and works well with my schedule.
Can you elaborate for the listeners a bit about what you're doing these days and your background?
Yeah, so I run an ad agency working primarily with e-commerce companies. A main focus on Facebook ad. We're trying to start to expand just because things are changing so rapidly. And, with all the customers, I tell them, don't just only invest in Facebook, start diversifying. And I'm starting to realize for my business that makes sense. And for certain people, Facebook ads don't make as much sense. So primarily Facebook ads focused on mainly driving sales, getting good return on ad spend, and actually building the business long term. That's kind of the main focus.
Do you see like the performance really deteriorating, or do you just feel that everybody's talking about the update of the iOS and the move to conversion API? And for me, I haven't noticed a real drop in the performance, but I'm not running a lot of ad accounts. So I'm wondering if you're, as an agency owner, you see like a decrease in performance in Facebook.
Yeah. So, I talk with a lot of other people in the industry, and things have just gotten kind of crazy. Like, what's being reported can be just wildly off. I will admit, I thought it would have an impact, but I didn't think it would. Basically, it kind of like broke their entire algorithm, because the whole way it's set up is it was really, really good at finding just the right person who is really, really likely to buy over time. And the more people it found to do that, the better it would get at finding those exact people. Well, now you've taken like half the people, and before they were a really good person to show the ad to, but now you can never retarget them or follow up with them. So suddenly that whole optimization doesn't work anymore. So like with one ad account, like the results, they're really profitable, and it went just instantly to losing money.
This sucks.
Really quickly. And then some companies, were only doing Facebook ads. So we know every sale coming in, you can't even find it on Google, would be from that. And just looking at Ads Manager compared with like the actual sales, it can be like 50, 60, 70% off, which is crazy. It's like a tracking thing in addition to, on average, I have seen kind of a hit in results, or just, especially with purchases, a little bit less so with leads. That's usually something easier to get people to do the first time they interact with you. And some of them were just driving like traffic and views and stuff, and that's not really impacted in the same way because it's not purchases, especially big purchases, $1,000 purchases. That's what really is taking the biggest hit.
I'm wondering, the accounts that took the biggest hits, were they using more of lookalikes? I mean, was there any pattern that you noticed except of the price point was higher and they were more based of probably a longer lifetime cycle of the customer before buying, or is it also related to the way that they were using interest or lookalikes in opposing to just going broad?
I've definitely seen an impact with lookalikes. You have kind of like a set audience, and especially people who aren't spending huge amounts of money. It's for them to perform best, you want to get like 1,000 new people in over like 60 days. So for some people, like through the Facebook ads, so for some people that's challenging, and that number just got cut in half. So that's definitely taken a hit. I am seeing a hit with broad targeting. That was working really well with stuff that applied to everyone, just really wide open audiences. It had gotten better and better. And now with those, it just seems like it's not quite optimizing correctly. You're still kind of paying a premium on Facebook it's a lot more expensive than other ad platforms, but the algorithm was so good, it made sense. And now some of the time it's just like overall getting less results, but having trouble like sticking with positive results like volatility. So it used to be a week goes by, it's doing really well. The chances of be doing really well a week from now are pretty high. Some stuff kind of falls off a cliff quickly. And now some of them are just, it's like a roller coaster. Like it's doing really well. And then the next day it's just kind of a nightmare.
I encountered the same roller coaster, but this is one of the reasons that I moved away from lowest cost. I'm mainly using like a more conservative bidding, which I'm mainly using bid cap lately, not even cost control. But what are you seeing in regards to the bidding?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of testing. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is, I'll go through $2 million of our own data and like I researched, does the learning phase make any difference? Not really. I did that for bids as well. And found the best results with cost cap. That's kind of the sweet spot. Because cost cap, you kind of set the amount you want to bid. And if it's like, hey, if we find an amazing person just a little bit over, we'll keep your average to that. Whereas, bid cap, it's like if it's 1 penny over what you're bidding to get in front of that person, it won't happen. So yeah, the nice thing with those manual bids and doing bid tests is you could spend very little on a bad day and a lot more on a really good day. So then it really manages your costs a lot better. It's just trying to find that balance with, especially if you're taking on a client, you don't want to come in and be like, okay, we wanted to spend $3,000 a day and we spent $27.
Yeah, for sure.
We had lower bids. And so it's that balance of trying to get consistent results. And even everyone has their own priorities. Some people would rather spend less or have their spend kind of fluctuate, but get consistent results. And some people would rather kind of spend the same each day. Usually I do like a 50-50 split. So we have, and then for the lowest cost campaigns, if they're doing well, I'll increase them incrementally, like 20% throughout the day.
For the bid caps, you do for the cost control or the cost cap to be accurate. So if it's under delivering, doesn't waste money, invest money. So do you increase the bid or do you duplicate and with an increase of bid, or you just leave it alone?
So generally what I've found is like if a campaign is doing fairly well, I don't like doing a lot of messing with it. Besides, increasing the budget by 20%, I found doesn't really reset it, or you can pause it for up to a day or decrease it. But otherwise, I generally won't touch things. It's a little less important with cost control ones, but just as a general rule, if it's not coming in quite as much, I'll just create a new campaign with a higher bid and the same ones, or maybe if I notice some patterns, I'll swap out a thing or two, but keep it more or less the same. And just do a new campaign anytime something has been working. I don't want to really touch it because I feel like it's kind of been optimized and kind of has its thing going. And the more you swap out ads and make all these changes, the more it messes with it.
Yeah. The thing with Facebook ads is it's such a black box. Nobody really knows. So you have to base your actions based on your intuition and your experience, but you don't really know because things also might change on the back end. The algorithm has changed. So let's say 6 months ago, bid cap worked the best, and now maybe something has changed and lowest cost works the best. So, and you don't really know. So you can't really keep on working the same way that you used to work before. You constantly need to adjust and test also things that didn't work in the past because they might start working now. So this is kind of an issue because a lot of people are saying, oh, lowest cost is the best, or bid cap is the best, or lookalikes, but it's constantly changed and it really depends on the market and the product and the price point. So there are a lot of variables and a lot of unknowns in this black box.
Yeah, I always run a mix simultaneously, just because so we can hit some consistent and then scaling it up and down based off it. Because if our target's $3,000 a day, on a good day I want to be spending $6,000. On a bad day I want to be spending $500 to test and start turning stuff down or pausing it. Because otherwise, if you just spend the same day after day after day, no matter the results, every bad day is going to wipe out every good day.
Exactly. I like the idea of mixing and having a lot of stuff and just letting the algorithm optimize and spend on a daily basis of whatever is giving the best signals. I wanted to ask you in regards to, so we talked about the inconsistency and the volatility and the fact that the tracking is kind of inaccurate these days. So what can a store owner do in order to optimize the tracking?
Yeah, so there is a number of things. I actually have a full playlist that walks through step by step of every single thing for iOS 14. Setting up conversion API is just additional data points, additional data that it can send. With some people, we're even creating new pages or specific product pages that we just send to Facebook. That way, we're not really running into if you see a purchase come in from a page that's only getting traffic from Facebook, that traffic came from Facebook, so you can actually way more accurately track that. You can add UTMs or URL parameters that just say, hey, it came from Facebook. So that will be in the URL when people click on it. And that tracks it via a cookie, sends it to Google Analytics. I found that's a little bit more accurate, or at least a useful data point to have in there, that data. There are some retargeting audiences that I actually haven't heard anyone talk about it. I did find a way to have a retarget people who've opted out of being tracked. So basically what it is, you can retarget based off people's actions on Facebook and Instagram. So if someone watched a portion of a video or something like that. For Facebook, the really good one is you can retarget people who have clicked on a link. So we've switched over to where every single link goes to the website on a really valuable page. And because clicking on the link was a behavior on Facebook, you can retarget that person. So retargeting them, it's almost like retargeting people who visited the web page. Sometimes we even set up, you can do videos on the different products to people who clicked on a link. So it's okay, this person visited the website. Then we show a video, let's say for a specific product. Then you can retarget those people who watched at least 50% of the video. And then you can send them to additional ones on the video chain. So you're almost creating these chains of people who continue to watch videos on a specific product. I'm hoping Facebook rolls out a way to have multiple things where it can be they watch half of this video and they clicked a link to the website. I've messed with that a long time, and you can only do one or the other.
But if you create two audiences and you create in the targeting and you include and you do two layers of an end operand, so you can create this. I'm just thinking because I never tried this, but I think because you can create a custom audience of people who viewed 50% and a custom audience of people who clicked. And then if you layer them one on top of each other in the targeting, maybe it's a combination of people who did both. Am I correct?
Yeah, I messed with it and couldn't get it because I want that audience to only be people who recently clicked on a link and watch like a portion of the next video. So you can continue to show stuff to people who clicked on a link and watched something. It's just, I mean, you should still do the same retargeting audiences. Still half of people are in that. I generally like to kind of create these chains where people continue to get stuff, because it's always like, okay, trying to get into people's minds, like there's some reason that they keep coming back to this website, but not making a purchase. So like we interview clients and customers and really look compared to the competition and figure out, okay, for some people, the price, they don't know if it'll pay off them, be a good investment, or actually do what it says, or like quality or other things like that. So usually we do like testimonials or things where they get like this chain of different things from basically busting every single objection that people ever have to the product. And you can kind of sort of do that with retargeting this way, but it's a lot easier when it's like people added to the cart and now you can target them with something specific to that. They initiated checkout, retarget them with that. You can't do that with people who've opted out with iOS 14.
Sure. And you mentioned the UTMs, and I think it's very important because some people overlook this, but for me, I think it's the fundamental part of tracking, and doesn't make sense not to have any UTMs if you're a real marketer. And I guess that even every store owner should have like UTMs for every traffic channel, every medium, not necessarily for every campaign, but at least for every medium and source. Do you agree?
I do, absolutely. I mean, there's programs like Hyros and Wicked, which we've been implemented with some clients where I feel like it does a better job of tracking. But basically, you can do that same thing yourself. They're using those UTMs. They're making it pretty automated. They're making it so you can see the performance of each ad. I mean, Hyros, it actually brings it into the ad platform, so it does have value. But some of these are like thousands of dollars per month. You'd be spending a lot for it to be fully worth it, but you can basically build your own. I'm trying to build my own system where you can actually drill down to the ad set level, ad level. It's just kind of like including that or tagging that in the UTM. But even just having source equals Facebook, just doing that is going to give you a big data point, because people, when they're advertising, all of a sudden results aren't reporting correctly, or it seems like Facebook's off. And they're like, if you don't have that data in Google Analytics, it's a very important data point that you'll be missing when you're creating your ad. URL parameters, source equals Facebook. Just that is going to make a big difference.
Yeah. And can you elaborate about the challenge that you're encountering? Because I mean, in Facebook, there is a way to create a dynamic UTMs parameters for every ad. So won't this solve your issue?
It will. So the dynamic, it will pull in like the campaign name and things like that. I've found it's like so much you have to have a really good system for either naming your campaigns or even creating names to be pulled into Google Analytics. So my campaign names are very, very long. It's too much for Google Analytics. It's like 80 characters for the campaign and 80 characters for, because it's like a tagging system where basically I'll say CR3, which is CRV3, which is creative video, the third one, which is the specific ad. And by having that in the ad name, I can use a tool like Supermetrics or other ones, and I could basically just pull in like, what are the results of every single ad with this specific creative? So that tagging system has been really cool. Was definitely a big game changer. It's getting a little more challenging because that's relying on Facebook, but you can just pull in your campaign names if you have a system to always use the same one. If the ads are all named different thing, that's when there's the issue, because if you pull in the ad name and they're all different, it's just kind of a mess, and you can't go into Google Analytics and like search for a specific ad or an ad set. Or it's really important to develop a system, either one that you're naming for the ads themselves and then pulling in with UTMs, or you can custom set them in the UTMs. I actually have my own kind of system where it's always the same, and I pull it in. So those are both really good systems. I know that's a little technical.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's great. Can you elaborate about the naming convention that you use? Because I use my own stuff, but maybe I can get inspiration from your ideas, because I have like an Excel spreadsheet with drop downs for like campaign name, targeting, then the geos, then the type of product, then the type of creative, etc. But a lot of people don't have naming conventions, and they're just using like default ad minus copy 2, copy 3. They don't update this. So can you elaborate about the naming conventions that you're using?
Yeah, for the UTMs, I'm still trying to perfect that exact system where it's super clean and easy. I do like having, I use just CRV for creative video or CRP for creative photo. And then I'll have a document where you can actually link to all the ads. I do like having like primary text is pretty important. So I just do PT05. So then at any point, it's in the spreadsheet, so you can see this exact headline is doing really, really well. The big thing is like consistency with things. Like if you're targeting chocolate lovers, just if you do CHOC lovers, just always using that exactly, all lowercase.
Yeah.
So it's identical each time, because then when you go into your analytics and go to see all this stuff, that's when you can actually search. You can search for that exact thing. It makes sense. It's not a single ad is named 20 different things, and it's just kind of a mess of different things.
Sure. And when I asked, it's totally fine that you elaborated about this, but I asked regarding the campaign and asset naming convention, not about the UTM. So how do you name the campaigns? Do you have like a structure for naming the campaigns? Because for me, when I have people that I coach, so I tell them, listen, whenever you create a campaign name, you should have a system, and this system should be understood by even if someone from outside is taking a look. So let's say you outsource the ad account to an agency, they need to understand from the get-go what's going on. Are you using interest? Are you using lookalikes? What is the target market you're using? So basically, this is the naming conventions that I strive to have in my campaigns and asset levels. Do you have something similar?
I do, absolutely. And yeah, I think it's very easy to figure out. I mean, sometimes you can use shortened words, but you're absolutely right. For them, I send them a spreadsheet, and it's very, very clear what every single thing means. So either like top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, or cold, warm, hot. Usually at the start, the country, usually I only do one country per campaign. I just found different countries kind of optimize differently. So name of country, I'm trying to think what else we always include. The data is creative. That's actually
I like
pretty valuable when you have all these different things to be like, oh, that's when we started this one. I'm trying to think. Yeah, if it's interest or LAL, we do for lookalike. Yeah, that's kind of the essential stuff.
It's kind of similar to what I do. And in regards to lookalike, just to get an idea, so what do you think was performing better in the last 6 or 12 months? I mean, was there anything consistent? Because for me, I see that the 1% lookalike is very, very expensive lately. So have you seen any patterns in regard to lookalikes?
I've actually found they're different in each ad account. I mean, one of the big things is just testing absolutely everything. So when I do a new one, I have generally found if it's an option, doing it for purchases is better. And if anytime you're trying to get purchases, like setting that as the objective, setting that as the lookalike, because then it's really going to try to find people who are most similar to that. Usually I'll do 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 lookalikes for all of those. And whenever I'm testing things like that, everything else is identical, exact same ads, exact same copy, exact same everything. Do it once or twice. I mean, sometimes stuff optimizes differently. It's interesting. It seems to be usually on the two ends, like 1 or 2 or 10%. But you never know.
Exactly.
It's not even some obvious pattern where it's like, oh, more expensive stuff, this percent does better. It's kind of unique to each ad account, and always worth, if you have enough spend, I mean, you can test every single one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10.
For sure. Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app, and we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Sure. And it's not only that it is unique. I agree. It's unique to each ad account, and I have multiple accounts running the same ads, same creative, same everything, and performing differently. So nobody really knows what's going on. What about the automated rules? Do you use them in your ad accounts?
I used to do them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more challenging now because those rules are based entirely off the data Facebook ads is giving you, which could be very off.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm more manually kind of implementing them because usually I have access to, we often use Shopify, access to the Shopify store, access to Google Analytics, access to Facebook, and you could kind of see if you're getting more of a whole picture. So I absolutely do the same kind of rules, daily scaling, up to twice per hour, up 20%. I have these exact ranges of if we're trying to be at 2.5 times return on ad spend, or 2 times if it's this, almost like formulas.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it more manually now because I had it going for a while just based off Facebook's ad results, and it just clearly started doing things I didn't want it to, or when there's discrepancies, it's just going off that Facebook data, which has issues right now. How about you? Are you using them?
Yeah, so I used to use them a lot, but then it started pausing campaigns that I didn't want it to pause. And for me, I have an issue whenever I reactivate the ad set. I'm afraid that it will have shitty performance, and it very often it happens that the first day after you reactivate, from what I'm seeing, so the performance is going really low. So I've moved away from using the automated rules, and I do it manually. I just make it a point to enter every morning. I don't scale during the day. I just touch it once every day. Obviously, if I'm launching something new, so I'll be on the numbers. But when I have the bid cap, when I'm using the majority of the time the bid cap, so I'm less afraid of overspending and wasting money. But I think that Facebook automated rules is a very important tool that the people are also overlooking, at least for the beginning. And you can, I agree that it's hard to track, especially these days with regards to results, but you can also set rules for like CPC or CTRs. So let's say you're seeing like a CTR or CPC that is more expensive than $2. So you can kill the ad basically, because assuming that your benchmark is way lower than $2 for CPC. So stuff like that. Just allows you to sleep better at night, because let's say you don't have connectivity, or you have something wrong with your computer, so you know that it's not going to waste a lot of your money. So this is, in my case, I'm not using this often, but I think it is a good tool that people are overlooking.
Yeah, and especially just how much time you can dedicate, and even how much you're spending in a sense. You know, if you're spending $5,000 a day, I think it's really worth, you know, me going in there 10, 15 times and like really trying to eke out like the very best performance, where if it's a smaller ad account, like you'll drive yourself a little crazy.
Exactly.
You don't want to be spending so much time in there every single day. So that makes total sense.
Yeah. So I had a period that I was spending like a lot of money every day, and it was for my own store. And Shopify had a lot of hiccups during that time. I think it was last October, more or less. It was before Black Friday and stuff like that. And there were a few days that my checkout went down. Like Shopify had a lot of issues, and checkout was down, and the conversion rate dipped. And I was afraid because I was spending a lot of money. So I created like an automation that pulled data from Google Analytics, and if the conversion rate dipped under like 1%, it called my cell phone.
Oh, really?
Even if it was in the middle of the night, and I would be able to go and post the ad sets, because I was so scared, investing so much money and wasting so much money because Shopify was so inconsistent.
That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of doing that.
But this is only if you're spending a lot of money and you're really scared of wasting it. So this is what I did. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your customers and when they are onboarding. So tell us a bit about the type of customer that your agency is serving. And I would also like to know what are like common misconceptions or things that you see very often, that people give you the ad account and you're like catching your head and you're saying, oh my God, there is so much room for optimization and low hanging fruits over here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've worked with a variety of companies. I've probably done the most with different food, beverage, some tech products. There's just something very tangible. And the big thing with Facebook, there's so many nuances. So it makes sense to kind of focus on specific areas because you learn a lot about those type of customers, what they respond well to. With onboarding, I mean, we really try to get paid based off of the results. So only really work with people who have a really high likelihood of succeeding. Big areas for improvement. So normally people running ads, occasionally if it's like an unbelievable product with huge sales that just aren't leveraging a channel like Facebook, we'll work with them. But often I like going in there and really trying to optimize things. I mean, more and more the things, how you're structuring the ads isn't going to be a game changer in terms of, I don't just go in there and be like, oh, you've got 4 ads per ad set. Like, let me change this to 5 and everything's going to change overnight. Yeah. But if they're missing out on really good retargeting audiences, or even they're not doing any ads to past customers, one thing that we do that I hardly see anyone doing, we have like a thank you thing that goes out to people who just bought the product. It's like not trying to pitch them on anything, not trying to sell them. It doesn't even lead back to the website. And it was like 3 times return on ad spend by people who just like on their own, like Googled it and went back to the website. But I think like loyalty, I think a lot of times we think of it in terms of numbers on a page versus like relationships, or I think the people who are going to be really successful going forward really understand that long-term relationship and lifetime value of the customer. It's gotten so much more competitive, and some of the people, they're fine breaking even on the first sale. So they take home $50 on the first sale, or even losing a little money. They spend $50 to get a customer, but they have such good customer loyalty, such good repeat purchases, a wholesale system, get people on the email list, that they know over the next 6 months, it's not going to be a $50 sale. It's going to be $200. So I think people focus a lot on that initial thing. So just, another big area is, just conversion rate on the page. If you're at 2 times return on ad spend or something like that, we can try to make some tweaks to get that up. But like one of them, we tripled their conversion rate. So it's much easier going from 1% conversion rate to 3.5 than it is, taking your Facebook ads and getting your cost to get in front of people, your cost per click down
can you share 70%. Can you share what you did as an example? What changes did you make to this page in this split test that produced such a lift in conversion rates?
Yeah, so I think a big part, I think a lot of e-com store owners, I mean, it's always worth testing, but it's much harder if you're just selling the general concept and just throwing people on a page with like 20 different things. So we were testing like sending to a single product or sending to like a suite of products. So we kind of rearranged how those were, but they're going to the just general page, and we took them to like way more targeted, which also made it easier with the ads to like really sell the like specific product, the specific result. It's much harder just general store to get people excited, especially brand new people. But if you can get people really pumped about the product or suite of products, that alone can double, triple the conversion rate. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I send most of the time to the specific landing page, to the sales funnel. And I don't really get why people send to the homepage, maybe to the collection page, but to the homepage, I'm not sure that it makes a lot of sense, but it obviously depends on the type of the e-commerce store and your brand and how many people are aware of a brand. But generally speaking, yeah, I think that the best results are produced when you're showing a specific ad to a specific product and you set them to the specific landing page. This is for sure. I wanted to ask you a question about the thank you page because I find it interesting, and I also saw that you suggested it in the ebook, in the free ebook that you're giving away. What is the time frame when did you show the thank you page? Because in e-commerce, a lot of customers, they say, I don't want to hear from you until I see the product, in a way, because first show me that the product is good, and it's when it arrives after like let's say 7 days or 5 days, and only afterwards they are willing to keep on interacting with you. So I was wondering, when did you show this thank you page, and was it like the day after or a few days after the sale, the initial sale?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I do think you don't want to be pestering people constantly, but like everyone makes it to the like thanks for your order page. I mean, often you could do upsells and downsells, but I think of every thank you page as an opportunity to accomplish something. Building brand loyalty, getting people involved with social media, even like a really good referral program. Like, if you're willing to spend $50 to get a customer, and that can fluctuate, say, hey, show this to your friend, we'll give you $25. They'll get $25 off their order, building that loyalty. And then it's like guaranteed you're getting them for that. So I really think of every thank you page is some opportunity. I mean, sometimes even just like pitching another product or certain things with like information. It could be different things on other courses or free things or other opt-ins. Also, the email people get right away. It's another opportunity to just have long-term goals with getting people really excited about the brand, excited about the product, even if it's just making them happy about the brand. That's an accomplishment. There was one like CD company, I'm trying to remember, but it's like, are like millions of L's, or like, it was like this 3-page long letter on just like how much they love the customers, and like each one is like over the top. Like you put your CD into like a gold plated like this and that, which got them famous because people were sharing it, but just it was entertaining. It made you like the company. It built even just character. Like it made them unique and stand out.
I think it's the company was founded by Derek Sivers, maybe. I think I heard the story in the Tim Ferriss show. See the company. It reminded me of a conversation that I had a few weeks ago with Casey Hill from Bonjoro, and the solution. Do you know Bonjoro? It's a very nice solution. What they are doing, let's say you get a sale from Shopify, you decide on event beforehand, and for every event, it notifies you via your cell phone or your desktop that the customer bought from you, and it gives you all the detail about the customers. And then you can record a personalized thank you video and send it over to them via mail. And this is something that we've been testing in the last few weeks. So anybody that purchased from our store, so we have a dedicated person from our team that takes their name and personally thanking them for buying, and obviously afterwards trying to upsell in the video. And then they have like a script that is personalized with an upsell. So this is something cool that I'm still testing, but I definitely suggest people should check this out as well.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. And I think that's one of the biggest areas of growth or biggest future of marketing is like really personalize videos to a specific person and just developing the systems to do that in large numbers, even if there's a lot of things coming in, just going back to kind of that direct person to person contact, because, you know, with phones and things like that, it's possible to blast through 100 in an hour or 50 in an hour, just systematizing it and having a team member. And yeah, it's another opportunity to pitch a product. I do think you want to do it as kind of an opportunity, not try to like strongly sell people.
Exactly.
Feeling like it's just for a sales pitch, that you build a relationship and just like, hey, just so you know, I wouldn't want you to miss out on, we have this other cool thing, like it's worth checking out.
Yeah. By the way, there are a few deep fake companies that are testing. I haven't tested this yet, but I saw a few websites that you can record one version of your video, and then based on the data that you feed it, like the name is going to create an audio and also seem as if you're pronouncing their name. So you create one video and it's going to be personalized for each customer using deepfake technology, which is kind of crazy.
That's awesome. I sometimes with things like that, I'm a little hesitant, nervous.
Yeah.
Just because people are really good at picking up on things that are slightly off, and that can turn what would have been a positive experience to like a really negative one. Like, they used a robot to make it seem like they're talking to me, and they spread it on Facebook, social media, all over the place. I totally agree. Even beyond the custom messages, just being able to like follow up, and especially one company we're working with, just like they had so many team members who was just like constantly just like talking to people directly. Like they'd show up and just like pick some random customers and like give them free stuff and just like share it on their social media, and like be just hyper focused on creating that community and things like that, or just positive feelings about the brand, memorability. It's so important.
Totally agree. Can you elaborate a bit about the free course that you're offering, that is called From Zero to Launch? Am I correct?
It is, yeah. So it's being built out. It'll probably be done in the next month. I feel like it's missing, so I wanted to make it completely free, just like a new lesson. Nice. I currently have a free Facebook ads course. This is kind of a expansion when I want to think about for people, if you want to do a campaign, like what's absolutely every single step in the process to get right, where you understand things with Facebook ads, learn kind of the core skills of like copywriting, structuring landing pages, setting up split test, and then actually building out the ads. So basically, you know, when I go to work with someone and do a full thing, it's like, here's the entire process, start to finish. Here's the, I think it'll probably take like 10 hours to go through. But it's really cool. You think about in less than a week, you could go through every single step of basically starting a full campaign, getting all the right software tools, things like that. Just especially working with so many people, doing other courses and trainings, I've realized there's a need for people to be able, basically I want people to avoid every mistake possible. I've seen every mistake that the hundreds of companies I've met with or worked with have made, and I want to prevent people from making any of those, because there's some that can be the difference between ads doing well and completely tanking. And that's huge. I mean, if you have an ad doing well, you can scale that up. It could be huge. I would just hate for someone to make a mistake that kept them from that.
And I also wanted to mention that you have an amazing YouTube channel. You're already giving away so much awesome free content. I've seen like very long videos about Facebook ads, and actually by chance, I encountered one of your YouTube videos about a conversion API implementation. So you're already giving away awesome content, and the thumbnails look awesome. So I highly encourage people to check that out. Is there anything that I forgot to ask, because I want to start concluding the conversation? Is there anything that I forgot to ask, or any last tips that you want to share with people?
That's a great question. I'm looking over. Yeah, I think the only other thing I do think just a really solid system for testing and analyzing is like one of the biggest things I see people missing, one of the biggest areas for improvement. I find so many people are just not creating nearly enough ads or playing it really quote unquote safe, which is actually not playing it safe. If you just do kind of a generic thing of your product against a white background and just kind of turn those out, that's like very, very low chances of success. So I think especially some more corporate, they're afraid of like really trying something like bold or like that feels out there. And it's pretty amazing if you test stuff that's like really out there, really creative. 7 times out of 10, it'll just tank. It'll be like, wow, that did not work. But almost always, the very, very best ones, the top performing, are ones where people really took a risk with testing. I think like the first 3 seconds of a video are by far the most important. So like with one of them, we're creating like 100 videos a month that we're testing, which to people that sounds like crazy. And it is a lot of work, but really it's like 7 or 8 videos with just like
different
shortened versions, or we'll test 6 different openers or 6 different things and really build that in, because like 60% of the results of an ad are how much those first 3 seconds really captivate people and like what keep people watching. And there's like grabbing attention, but also weaving it in with the product. You know, sometimes you can nab that attention, and people will watch, but that doesn't mean you've captured the right attention, or sometimes that can even send the wrong
impression
signal.
If
Facebook's saying, oh, these people are really liking this video, but it's not your target customer. So I don't think you have to be afraid of saying, hey, this isn't for you if this, or with targeting not being as good, just trying to really make it so it's like every person that this ad is perfect for needs to be like light up and be like, oh wow, this is the very specific thing. And you actually want every single person that doesn't apply to scroll right past it and pay it no interest whatsoever.
So qualifying the customers via the ads as fast as possible. But one question about this, I totally agree. But on the other hand, it's hard to find a sweet spot, because it's also hard to manage and create so many ads. So what is, in your opinion, like the minimum amount of let's say versions or ads that one should run? Because obviously the more you run, it's better. But on the other hand, it's hard to manage, as I mentioned. So in your opinion, what is the minimum?
So, I mean, that will depend quite a bit on the budget. I mean, some people I've met with just don't have the resources to be creating really creative or things like that. And honestly, sometimes that means you should probably like either take more time to kind of build it up, but they're ready to like jump in with really mediocre things and hardly any. And it's like, this is just going to lose money. Like, how's that going to benefit anyone if it's not in the place it needs to be? You also don't want to create like so much that you can't actually effectively test things. Usually we wanted to be able to spend at least what we're willing to pay per customer to test a specific ad. So if we're willing to spend $50 to get a customer, we want to spend at least $50 on each ad, if not a little bit more. So then so that's why some of the higher spend, higher volume, especially now with it being so volatile, stuff is kind of falling off a cliff faster. So you just can never rest on your laurels and be like, oh, things are just cruising, they're going well, this will stay. I almost mentally think of each thing as potentially being ready to crash. And I mean, if things are going really well, we're spending 80% toward what's working, 20% toward testing. If nothing is really working, it's all going into specific tests. We're not continuing to run stuff that's just shown not to work, shown not to be profitable. So it's really dependent on that. But I do think it's worth investing the time and effort to really try to stand out. And it's totally fine to wait for a bit to build that up. You want to actually be prepared and ready when you jump into the ads, because and if you're hiring someone to do it, there'll be the fee toward them or to make it worth their time. So you have to be spending a chunk of money to cover that person's fees, to make sure you're being profitable. Testing it out, it's usually less profitable. So it's a commitment. I think some people just jump in instantly thinking it'll be easy, or they hear these ads about 7 times return on ad spend and assume they can just throw up an image and it'll be simple. And it's challenging to get things really profitable, to keep it going consistently. That being said, if you get something that's really winning,
scale it to the moon.
Yeah, there's so much upside potential. And I think that's what people get so discouraged when things don't work right away. And it's like, you could have 9 dismal failures. We usually have an amount we're willing to test or willing to lose. So you could lose $1,500 9 times, but if you have something that's really cruising and being incredibly effective, I mean, we've scaled them to like over $1 million, or like a single ad over several hundred thousand, because it just worked so well, and you just leave it running. So there's huge upside, but a lot of stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, this is so important, and especially because of a lot of gurus and ads are proclaiming and portraying an image that is incorrect, in my opinion, that everything works and you can scale, and 7 figures ROAS that you mentioned. I think it's very uncommon to have a multiple ROAS of 700%. For me, I'm running profitable with like ROAS of 2.3, which is enough. I'm not. I would prefer to have more, but this is the honest truth. When you're scaling, it's harder to keep like the perfect results. So it's important that you emphasize this, and the fact that you have to test a lot, and you have, as you mentioned, you have a lot of so-called failures, which is just opportunities to learn and optimize. But when you hit the jackpot, so you can really scale and cover all your losses with profits, as is some people often misunderstand.
Yeah, I think it's a small thing, but it actually, mindset's so important, and it has helped. Something that I know is going to always be part of a process, I've stopped using the word failure for. Because if it's just baked into the process and what everyone has to go through, failure almost implies like you did something wrong, or that, if you failed, it's like a really negative. If your whole business goes under, that's a failure. But if you have to launch 28 things before you get something that works really well, that's just baked into the process, and that's always going to be present. The reason I think that matters, I just see so many people that go in with these crazy ideas and just aren't willing to stick it out, get so discouraged. Oh, that was lied to. This doesn't work. And just burn through that money, but don't see like what the process is, and like have a good system of, okay, how much do we think this is going to go down? How long will it take to get there? So that's a huge part of onboarding people, is being like, here's what the next 3 months are going to look like, and here's the exact numbers. It's always like 3 months from now, if we're sitting down having a conversation, what would I need to tell you for you to be like, I'm so happy with everything we've done. This is going great.
Awesome. Yeah. And it reminded me also, I've been reading a book about experiments, and they talked about a case study that Booking.com did, and only like 10% of their tests, and they split test every day, like 1,000 split tests every day, I guess. And only 10% of the hypotheses are successful. And 90% of the tests, they are so-called quote unquote failures. They don't produce what they wanted. But this is the honest truth. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily this exact number in life, but generally speaking, not everything is pink and always positive, but these are opportunities to learn and improve and optimize. And this is very important for people to understand.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to incorporate into the course I'm doing, is just having worked with 100 companies and knowing what unrealistic expectations, just being like, here's like what to expect. Here's when wow, we're doing something really wrong. Abandon ship, pause it. We've need to completely pause things and reset and restructure, versus what's kind of like, it's not going to be quite as profitable at the start. Yeah, we need to do some tests. Usually creative and landing pages, audiences as well. That's usually a little bit secondary. especially with, just creative, really, really important.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Jacob. It was real fun. A lot of insightful information, a lot of tactics, which I really enjoyed, and also some mindset stuff. And where can people reach out and hear more about you guys and what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot on the YouTube channel. I just love providing free tutorials, helping people out. I try to reply to every single comment. On the website as well, people can apply to work with me. I have a lot of like blog posts or things that kind of work better in that written format as well. So both of those is Jacob LE. And I consistently have stuff there, just kind of what I see people are struggling with, try to make tutorials specifically to help people solve those.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll also add the links in the show notes. And I highly encourage people to check out your YouTube channel because I really, really liked it.
Thank you so much. It's been so good chatting.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number 2, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.